small till it ain't, till it ain't, till it ain't, till it ain't. I'm building up a wall till it breaks. She hated when I call and it's late. I don't wanna keep you waiting. I hope I never keep you waiting. She think I know it all, but I don't. Good morning, Caitlin Myers.
Hey Scott, we don't usually talk in the morning, but good morning. We're
Yeah,
recording in the morning today.
we're recording in the morning. It's like the View,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Aren't they on in the morning?
They are on in the morning. I hope there's not quite that much drama,
We're
but
gonna have some drama. I'm gonna be Whoopi Goldberg. I'm gonna fall asleep if Claude tells me something that I don't like.
perfect.
If he goes on for too long. What's
Perfect.
that? What's that? What's that? Where are we right now? This doesn't look like the same place as
I
before.
am not in my office at work. I'm in my office at home. I live in an old Victorian, and my office is a very unupdated, lovely room. You can see my dog sleeping behind me. He's a good boy. And then on
Oh,
the other side of me is my prized possession. You want to see it up close?
yeah.
Okay. I'm transferring you
Okay.
to my phone.
You're muted.
There we go. Rookie
Okay.
mistake. And then we're going to come up here. Well, I figured out how to flip it once. There we go. So, Scott, this is my hair wreath.
What does that mean? Hair wreath.
Well, this is human hair from a lot of different humans, and it is wound around wire forms to create beautiful flowers. The only thing in here that is not hair is the little beads and then the wires that the hair is wound around. And back in the 1800s, it was very, very common, very popular for Victorian ladies who maybe didn't have enough going on in their lives, but for Victorian ladies to collect the hair of people they loved, often who had passed away,
What?
and to collect lots of different people's hair and then to make beautiful art out of it. And
Wow.
so this is my wreath made
Where'd
out of
you
human
get it?
hair.
Where'd you find that?
I I saw them in a museum. I saw some, it's called Hair Work. They have some at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, in fact. But I saw some in a museum and I absolutely just fell in love with it. And
Oh.
for my 40th birthday, I bought myself a hair wreath on eBay. So I have no idea whose hair this is.
You don't know the
Uh,
backstory of it? You don't know anything
I
about
don't know the
that's
backstory.
the
I mean, I
movement?
wish I did. I wish I did. But also, I just love the idea that, like, the Victorians knew how to mourn, like just
It
sitting
was a
there. And
morning. It was kind of a morning thing.
often it was a morning thing, and you would like have the hair and sit there and make this, wind it around these forms. And I just think
Wow.
it's so cool.
When do you think that went away?
I think it just kind of slowly went away, but actually, there's a professor at Middlebury College, Ellery Fouch, who teaches a course on hair work and teaches. She brings in a contemporary artist who is still doing it, who teaches students how to do it. And I took a class and made some hair work out of horsehair. Mine is very bad. I'll show it to you. It's right here. Um, don't laugh.
What an interesting symbolism. Oh, you made that out of
Yeah.
horsehair?
Yes.
Oh, I love
And
it.
also, if you're wondering, I am vying for the title of weirdest economist. Um,
Yeah.
I hope that my
That's gonna
art made out
be,
of.
yeah, there's some competition you're going
No,
against.
I know. It's probably foolish. There's some real.
That's got like in K dimensions of weird. How you're gonna possibly, we're gonna have to get, we can't even build social welfare ranking things. So I don't know how we're gonna do that one.
Yeah, yeah.
You
All
got
right,
my
I'm going to
buzz
switch you
though.
back over to my computer. I'm ready. I'm going to talk about regressions and not hair. But thank you so much for asking me
Okay, that
about.
was beautiful.
Thanks.
Did you
Uh,
decorate it yourself? The entire vision of the house is you?
well, we haven't really updated or renovated anything. So this wallpaper was here and we moved in, and I said to my husband, we have to change it, and he said, I love it. And it's
Gosh,
been
it's
10
gorgeous.
years, so I guess he won.
That is
Um,
stunning. That
yeah,
is
I
the
mean, I kind of
How
like
old is
it.
that wallpaper?
I have no idea. The house is from 1882, so it's a beautiful Victorian slate roof. Very expensive to paint, um, but I
Mm.
love it. I kind of feel like a caretaker for this piece of history. It's really
Oh.
really fun.
I live in a studio apartment in Back Bay, Massachusetts right now, and my landlady told me it's 600 square feet, and the bed's in the kitchen or the bed's in the living room, and the landlady said she'd sell it to me for a cool $1 million. And she said, and this is the other thing they told me. Some of the listeners are going to be surprised when they hear this. Apparently, it's a massive feature in Back Bay, Massachusetts, which is just a neighborhood in Boston, that it has a parking space. And and she said, unfortunately, I cannot sell the parking space separate, but the parking spaces, if you can separate out, it's like a homeowner's deal. They won't allow you to do it in Back Bay, the parking spaces will go for 150 to 300,000 a year or 300,000. You'll buy a parking space for 150 to
This is
300,000. So
madness.
it's just like astronomically and so then I was kind of like, so then I had this party on Monday. You would have loved it. I had a party on Monday. Monday was the Boston Marathon. And I had this friend of mine and her buddies, and I was like wanting to give them a piece of Texas. So
Yeah.
I ordered brisket, 8 pounds of brisket,
Yes, that's a lot
and
of
three
brisket.
pounds. I was a little bit. I Claude told me that was the right number. That wasn't
Oh,
even close to the right number. It's like by orders of magnitude too much brisket is in my fridge right now. But like, um, they all came over and I ordered it from Waco and they
yeah.
shipped it because it's like this particular barbecue restaurant was written up in Texas Monthly as one of like the up and coming, so that's like a Michelin level
Yeah.
barbecue.
Yeah.
So like it's set, they sent it anyway. uh they were like all cooing and kind of like, oh, this is an amazing apartment. And I told them the price. They didn't even bat their eye. And they were like seriously interested in buying it. And I just was like looking around and I was like, this is in Texas a closet.
Yeah.
This is like ridiculously, can't wrap my head around it. Although,
Yeah.
and I'm sure in Vermont, well, what's the price? Prices are probably pretty high in Vermont,
Prices
right?
have risen so much since I moved here. Like this
Yeah.
house, I would not be able to afford this house now, but I bought it 10 years ago. I mean, when I moved from Texas to Vermont, I thought Vermont was crazy expensive.
Mhm.
But now that I live in the Northeast and have some connection and understanding of prices in cities up here,
Yeah.
Vermont's less than that.
Yeah. It's all these
But
amenities.
I
It's
do
so
often
beautiful up
wonder
here.
like how people afford to live. My one of my adult children, still lives at home and pays rent because it just makes financial sense. Like so much
Yeah.
more sense. Plus he
Right.
walks the dog when we travel.
Right.
So
Right. Well, those were our icebreakers that weren't really correlated with each other. Well, yeah, they were. They were about real
you
estate.
don't have a hair wreath to
I just made my most recent hair wreath. I'm gonna let this grow back out, and then I'm gonna make another one. That's what I basically do. I'm always making them. That's why you never see me without
yeah.
hair.
You like hot glue it to a little
Yeah,
poster board.
yeah,
Okay.
exactly.
That's
I shave it, and then I go make another wreath, and and that's like another one of my side hustles is to sell them.
you
That
got a
might
lot
be
of them.
mine. That might be mine back there. Okay. So today, uh, what do you want to do?
I want to run some regressions.
Run some regressions. What are we going to regress? What's a regression? Let's have a
Wow.
brief explanation for the people
Yeah,
out there
I
that think,
suspect most of what we will do, I think perhaps. Okay, so Scott, you tell me, let's talk about what is a regression.
Mhm.
So here's what I wanted to say. It's so embarrassing to reveal things that you're not sure about in front of
Totally.
a audience, right? But
Yeah.
it's also, I kind of like the transparency of it. So when I think regression, I'm like, what's the technical definition? I think it's OLS, right? I think it's minimizing the sum of least squares. I think it's what like Sir Francis Galton
Yeah.
did when he was trying to test regression to the mean back in the 19th century,
Yeah.
and that's where the term comes from. And so I was going to say to you, like, I think we're probably going to use maximum likelihood estimation to fit a nonlinear model, nonlinear in the
Hmm.
parameters today.
Hmm.
Maybe that's not regression, right? Maybe regression has to be
But did
linear in the
Galt,
parameters. What do you
did
think?
Galt, well, I taught this earlier in the semester, and now I can't quite remember what I said, but I know that Galton was talking about something about it is regression to the regret. I think he called it regression to the mediocre. He had like a different
Well,
phrase
he
for
was
it.
a notorious eugenicist. He was talking about whether offspring inherit the characteristics of their parents, and his
Right.
thesis was that they did, but that they would tend to move back towards the mean. So like a tall parent is likely to have a taller than average offspring, but
Yeah.
not on average as tall as them. Or
Yeah.
we would have like, for instance, a race of humans diverging towards giants and
But they
non-existent.
can't because something pulls them back.
Exactly. I think
Right.
so. He was testing this like biological hypothesis in his quest to, I don't know, do terrible
Well,
things,
so if
perhaps.
that's true, that word regression, this is just marketing,
Yeah.
it's just jargon. And I'm not positive, but maybe you're right. He's not necessarily fitting lines, is he? Is he fitting lines? And he's
I
or
think
is it more
Galton was. I don't know.
probabilistically?
I haven't looked at the paper, but I just
Because
think
I
what I
thought it
said,
was
I wanted
about
to
the
run.
distribution of probability. I thought it was more like probability is of one unit mass and it cannot go on forever. Like, or it can, the normal curve does have infinite tails theoretically. So it can go on forever, but it still integrates over the normal. It's equal to one. So I always kind of thought what Galton was doing, and I thought what he was doing was somehow he was saying, yeah, like the normal you could have people that go on forever, they could be giants, but the integration over the PDF is always going to be one because the law of total probability is always going to sum to one. So probably it won't. Probably the next one will be a little closer to the mean
On average.
on average, right?
I think it's just if you, for instance, regress offspring height on parents' height, like let's say
Mhm.
you regress offspring height on father's height. I think he's saying the coefficient's going to be positive, but less than one, right? They're correlated.
Because he's doing the hereditary. It's not just
Yeah, I think,
regressing height. It's it's this parent child relationship. I knew
yeah,
that,
I
but I
think
guess I
that's what he
kind
was
of wasn't
studying.
I wasn't linking it. So what? He's doing differences in height and he's regressing. What's the right hand side variable?
The right hand side variable, like, I mean, I'm making one up, but for instance, it could be father's height. Like you could regress like let's say we're talking about humans, you could regress offspring adult height on father's adult height.
Mm,
What's the correlation between the characteristics of the of a parent and the offspring?
mm. Well,
We're off on
I
a
think we
tangent.
both agree that if you like if you went up and scared somebody and was like, at night and you were like, tell me what regression means, they're going to say OLS.
Yeah,
That's going to be the first thing they say.
yeah,
And then when they calm down, they'll go, well, there's other kinds of regressions too.
yeah. That's my question: is are there, like, if somebody, I never say Poisson regression, I say Poisson model, but I hear people say Poisson regression, and I'm like, is
Mhm.
it?
Yeah,
One day I'll
you'll
find
hear
out.
people talk about non-parametric regressions, and so
Yeah,
there seems to be like the use of the word does. I mean, so much of this gets into just so much stuff that I find like a little that does create some insecurity inside me, which is when all these schools of thought will use the same word in different ways, and I'm
right.
not picking up very quickly on it because I don't come to this stuff through stats and econometrics. I come from literature. So I've
Mhm.
always just felt like I've always been behind the eight ball. And so when I hear like, non-parametric and parametric is another example like that, where you're just like, explain to me like I'm five what words we mean right now. But algebraically, you and I both know what we mean by ordinary least squares.
Correct.
Yeah.
We can all agree on that.
Yeah, we can all agree on that. So what are we going to do today then?
Well, I think we want to pick up where we left off, which is
Yeah.
answering our question of did reductions in abortion access in Texas in
Hmm.
2013 result in changes in entrance into marriage? That is our, I'm going to say, primary question.
Yeah.
And we're on episode, I think this might be 8,
Eight.
and we have spent the whole time so far developing the question, thinking about the theory, finding the data, visualizing our identifying variation, visualizing trends in the outcome, which might be a good place to maybe, if we got it on hand, maybe we could show our viewers. But it's really past time that we actually got a little more sophisticated and ran, I'm going to say, a regression.
Yeah.
Although I think we might want to start with a Poisson model. I'm wondering what you think about that.
So, I'll talk out loud as though I'm talking to I'll be the talking to the audience a little bit. So one reason it seems like to do the Poisson is that's the literature,
Hmm.
right?
That's what we did
And
in our earlier
that's what we
paper.
did in ours, and that's what a lot of people do. And you cannot have negative marriages. You can have zeros.
Right.
You can't have, so already you've got a variable that's like bounded at the floor of zero. So what's a Poisson? So for the sake of the student that's listening, what does the word Poisson mean?
Well, it's French for fish.
Okay. I thought it was a person. I thought it was a person named
It is
Poisson.
a person, but
Oh,
I
okay,
think
got
it's
it.
also French for
It's
fish.
yeah.
There's a great song in The Little Mermaid, La Poisson, La Poisson. How I love La Poisson. The chef dances around. I always
Uh-huh.
think about it. Anyway, yeah, it's also a person. So a Poisson model is it's a probability distribution that describes a count of events within a certain window of exposure, which might be like, I think, a period of time, or it might be like and you could define the exposure perhaps differently, like a
Mhm.
number of events per units in which it could have occurred.
Yeah.
And we often use it in a maximum likelihood estimator framework, where we implement it with maximum likelihood estimation in economics when we have
Mhm.
outcomes that are counts. Because if we have an outcome like marriages per county that are
Mhm.
counts, they take on discrete values. We're
Yeah.
going to have zeros for sure, particularly when we look in like demographic subgroups, there will be zeros. And, we're interested in modeling, probably, I think, the relative change in the marriage rate.
Mhm.
And if we just implemented OLS, where we took the log of the marriage rate as the outcome, all those log zeros will be undefined.
Mhm.
And I think one of the dirtiest secrets in empirical economics is that how you handle log zeros can dramatically affect the
Yeah.
results, right?
Yeah.
So some people drop them, some people replace them with log of some small number.
Mhm.
I think that's a really bad idea, for the record. Curious to know what you think. But a Poisson can handle it, right? A
Yeah.
Poisson is actually a model that's much better equipped to handle it. Although, of course, there are some assumptions like the expected value of the outcome is equal to the variance, and there's some other models that you can try. But long story short, I think it's a pretty good approach to dealing with count data.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm all for it. So I'm all for it. And it can handle fixed effects.
Oh, of course, yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah. So it can handle the fixed effects. And if I remember correctly, clustering at the level of the unit with the fixed effects, maybe it's one or both of those, will address that mean equals the variance issue. Because the mean basically never
Well,
equals the
that's
variance. Is that not right?
well,
I thought
that's
that's
more of
what
an
Cameron and Trivedi said.
yeah, and that's more of an underlying feature of the probability distribution. I think if you
Uh,
want to relax it, that's why people try other models like negative binomials. But we can get there later. I'll tell you that in my experience modeling primarily abortion counts and birth counts,
yeah.
the Poissons work really well and tend to be very robust to all the other things I've thrown at them over the years. So
Uh,
I think it's a good starting place.
Yeah. But the Poisson does, as the PDF, technically, the PDF does have the average and the variance are the exact same number.
Yeah,
And probably it won't be the case that marriages over 254 counties, marriage rates will have an average that is exactly equal to the variance.
sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And we don't have to commit to that because there is a way of relaxing it and still fitting it into that maximum likelihood.
Yeah, there's various approaches we can
Okay, so
take.
you know all this stuff. So I'm going to be learning from you. Even though we did it, I haven't done it in a long time, and I just remembered from Cameron and Trivedi just kind of learning the fixed effects parts. So okay, and I have made a gentleman's request that we also run ordinary least squares with county and year fixed effects so that I can, uh, on a different episode, start illustrating the Callaway, Goodman Bacon, and Santana paper for continuous treatment that has a decomposition. I've been doing it on my Substack and I was wanting to do it for our thing. And because I feel like we should be we should understand this estimator because we're going to do
Mhm.
it. We're going to do it even if we say we don't like it or whatever. I just want to we're going to do it because we said earlier we were going to do it. You promised me.
We sort of have a this is the new version of the pre-analysis plan as you just
It's a
announce things
promise.
publicly.
That's right. Public promises.
Public promises, you're
Pinky
stuck.
promises. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so we're gonna run this regression, and Claude's gonna do it for us. And then the other thing was, I was gonna show you my my way of looking at some verification of what he does. Of course, we also are gonna have Hannah look at stuff too. But all right, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. All right. Okay, so I was having him kind of make like an outline for us, but we're ready. So let me
Yeah.
tell him. All right. Okay, I'll type while you talk.
Well, I'm looking at this and I'm thinking I also use Claude to get ready for things. I like how you're planning with them. And Claude asked you if I had dropped my controls in the project folder, and the answer is yes, they are there. Claude can find them. I'll mention I run county level analyses of demographic outcomes of reproductive policy every day of my life. And I have a data set just sitting on my computer that's like my very common list of controls at the county level. So there's demographic controls that I calculate with SEER data, which are population data. And I've got like unemployment rates and poverty rates and median household income from SAPE, small area income poverty estimates, and census control. So there, I just threw them all in there with some documentation. But I do want to flag there's always this question of whether many of these controls are like, quote, bad controls, right?
Mhm.
The idea is that some of the controls we might add to the model could themselves be outcomes
Yeah.
of the change in abortion access.
Yeah.
And so we'll just kind of keep that in mind. I usually run my first models without any controls, and then I usually add demographic controls, and then I add economic ones last. But
Yeah, I mean, for this, I think for a lot of the times when you're doing these state level panels and stuff, it's probably like over exaggerated that they could be outcomes. Like, but for
mhm,
something like the disappearance of access to healthcare,
right,
you could imagine, I mean, at least anecdotally, the news, you have people that move, you know, that move around out of state even and things like that. So, but it's possible too. I guess I'm just thinking out loud. It always felt like our interpretation in the JHR was we thought that the binding effect of the closures was on poorer women.
yes,
They're probably not going to move out of state or to another city otherwise because they probably are much more likely to be wage workers, hourly wage workers, and they may not have the ability to like relocate, or it may not be as
right.
easy, you know?
Yeah, the notion that somebody who isn't able to travel 100 miles to reach an abortion facility is able to move hundreds of miles because
Yeah,
they
it's a
can't
little bit
just
of a
seems a
stretch.
little
Yeah.
paradoxical, contradictory, I guess. And I'll also just add that we don't really have evidence of migration in response to pre-Dobbs abortion policy. I think that it tended to be a less salient shock than
Yeah.
the post-Dobbs bans.
Right. Right.
And I think the people who are moving or choosing when they're already moving where to go in response
Hmm.
to post-Dobbs bans,
Hmm.
It's probably about a package of political amenities or disamenities and not just abortion, right? These are mobile people.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, in any event, so what are you telling Claude? Let's
Well,
get going.
okay. So I had in my mind, that one of the things when we do Claude is that you and I like to see decks and pretty pictures and
Hmm.
stuff, and also table output, columns of regression results. And so I was just thinking, well, do we want to just go ahead and get our, straightforward LaTeX produced table of output? And if
Yep.
so, then it's like column one is no covariates, and then column two is quote covariates, but
Yep.
there's a bunch of covariates. So we could go like traditionally the way the regression tables go, or publication ready tables go, is like there's four columns, and it's like one, no covariates, two, the 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 like exogenous covariates, and then you like
Yeah.
add up the ones you're like suspicious about.
Yeah.
But we
I
could do it
think
that way, or we just do two of them and we just throw the kitchen sink. I wanted to know what you were thinking because these were, you know this better than me.
Yeah, so I think I would have three columns. The first with no covariates, then the second with detailed demographic controls only. Because in particular, we have in the control variables, there are, I think it's there or it can calculate it. We might want to have it checked, but I know the information's there to calculate it. The percent of the population of each county that falls into 5 year age and race ethnicity brackets. So it's like the percent of women who are age 15 to 44, who are black in age 15 to 19, who are Hispanic in age 20 to 24, right? All of those.
Mhm.
Because demographics are so strongly correlated with reproductive health outcomes, I think they
Yeah,
could also be correlated with marriage outcomes. And
right.
then the third column, we probably want to ask it what's in the controls, but I would certainly think that we want to add unemployment rates and poverty rates at a minimum.
What about it? Do we have education in here?
I
County
think
level
so. We can
education?
ask it to take a look. I haven't, I actually updated this data set last week, and now I'm wondering, I'm like, wait, did I put everything in there again?
Well, okay, this
We'll
is a
find
good
out.
this is a good place to pause. I mean, so I think we want to put in things that would be soaking up as much of the omitted variables as we can
Hmm.
without overfitting. And so then
Right.
so then it's like from a different diff perspective, different diff identifies the average treated on the treated. It is imputing the counterfactual Y0 into the two by two case. So it's like basically using the untreated group to impute what would have happened had
Hmm.
the treatment not occurred.
Hmm.
So the for me, it's like, well, what are the covariates that are ordinarily, if it's Y0, okay, then this is like in a world where none of the clinics closed, normal world, then what are the covariates that predict marriage rates?
Right.
Right. And so then it's like, then that's what we want to put in common sense controls.
I agree. And let me expand on that point just for a kind of hot second.
Hmm.
If this were a truly randomized controlled trial where we ourselves had randomized distance,
Hmm.
any of these covariates should be independent of treatment,
Yeah.
and adding them shouldn't affect the coefficient on treatment.
Right.
But it should make, if they do predict the outcome, it should help improve precision.
Yeah, exactly.
And so in our context, that's also the way I think about it is that at least over a short span of time where there's, if we narrow our window and maybe our window's a little bit wide, but I kind of think of like if this is truly a random treatment, none of these controls should matter that much, right? I get nervous when the controls matter a lot
Hmm.
because I want them to not matter a lot. I think of it as adding them for precision.
Hmm.
The demographic controls, though, you can have in some of these kind of Sunbelt states like Texas, you can have some substantial demographic change over 5 or 10 years. So I think those matter. That third column, unemployment rates, poverty rates, I think they definitely should predict the outcome. I
Hmm.
hope they're not correlated with treatment. But so, yeah, so I think they belong. I think education belongs, except I doubt it's varying a lot over time. So I think our county fixed effects are probably already
Mm,
soaking up a lot of it. But
yeah.
why don't you let me suggest this. Why don't we just have it go ahead with what we've asked it and then ask it also to look in the controls and see what else is there and what Claude thinks. I'm like curious to
Yeah.
know how Claude
Could
thinks
I
through the
tell
problem.
him? Can I phrase it this way? So I wanted to say how I think of it. So
Yeah.
for the third column, I was thinking this. I think of the inclusion of covariates based on an old Heckman, Ikamura, and Todd 1997 restud paper where they introduce outcome regression. That is two steps, regress the first difference outcome onto baseline covariates for the comparison group only, and then use those coefficients to predict the first difference outcome for the treatment group. And
Mm.
the idea is that if conditional parallel trends is true, then the coefficients on those covariates in the comparison group are the coefficients for the treatment group for predicting the counterfactual. So, but operationalizing that intuition for covariate selection is more like common sense stuff. And I was thinking, what covariates to you predict the ordinary county level trends in marriage rates in Texas that is not in column 2 or 3? Let's see, column 2.
I think above that we already have three, so I think we're talking about four.
Yeah, column 2 or 3. So
Yeah.
this is you now choosing what remaining covariates you think we should include to satisfy conditional parallel trends, and then produce this in replicable code and make .tech beautiful table publication quality, and then use referee 2 to replicate it in all the other languages so that me and Caitlin know you didn't mess up. All right, so I'll explain
God,
what
this
that
is
is.
the
So,
longest prompt ever. Do you
yeah.
prompt Claude like this?
Yeah, he's like my friend. I talked to him. I talked to him. He's my
Does he
buddy.
like it? I
I think
just said
so.
he. Oh God, you're rubbing off on me.
Okay, I want it while he's doing this. Okay, I just want to say something real quick because when I had this party on Monday,
Hmm.
this came up, and I understand that for many women to refer to Claude as a he or whatever is just regendering stuff. But I just wanted to kind of
Uh-huh.
say something. Uh, I just kind of view the large language model as my pet. So when I say he, I don't mean the universal Claude is gendered. I just mean this is my friend. This is my buddy right now who's writing this paper. And it could be she for someone else, just like my cats back home, Betty and Ronnie, are female cats, but nobody else has to have a female cat.
Well, Betty and Ronnie can be female names.
Yeah, they are
They
female
are
names.
in Archie, of course.
Yes, that's what I named them after.
Yeah.
But what do you think? You do not want.
Well,
What do
Claude
you want
is.
to do?
I feel like I'm going to get in some sort of trouble for this. The following. So everybody, feel free to cancel me. I think Claude is a male name,
It is.
and I think that's why we call Claude he. And also, I wonder about a counterfactual universe where Claude got a female name
Mhm.
and how that would affect how people talk to Claude, think about women, but we
Mhm.
don't have that parallel universe
Well,
generator.
what do you think it would have been like if there was if it was Bridget and not Claude? Would you be as comfortable? Would you be as comfortable like just telling it what to do all the time?
No. Well, I don't know. Think about how people talk to Siri. Like,
Mhm.
I hear people say very mean things to their Siris, you know?
Really?
Yes.
I
Not
can't
me,
do,
because I
I
don't talk
did
to
an
Siri.
RCT. Did I tell you I did an RCT uh, on OpenAI with ChatGPT with GPT and the prompt? We had all these like 5 tasks. Doing this like thousands of times, and all we randomized was how nice we asked them to do.
Uh-huh.
And if you asked them nicely for these tasks, and you had a control group where you didn't, and look at this real quick.
I just want to say that Claude said that my controls are beautiful.
I
And
think
thank you,
controls are
Claude.
beautiful. Caitlin's file is a
He's
gift.
a gift.
Is a gift. Documented by source harmonized FIPS. Yep.
You're welcome. You're
Yep.
welcome, world.
Okay, econ plus my picks. And so when we randomized, okay, so if he's done, make the beautiful deck.
You okay with him making it all in R? You want to make him in Stata?
He's got to do it in all. He's got to do it in all. So that's the thing. So this
Okay.
referee two thing, I was going to tell you
Oh,
about
I
it.
see.
This referee two thing is this thing I came up with because I think you and I both agree, and this is part of the reason we brought Hannah involved, is that
Hmm.
really this agent-based research stuff, the real challenge going forward is not going to be like, producing code and doing research because it's going to feel as though everything's done instantly. The real challenge is going to be verifying that it did what you think it did and then
Right.
verifying that it did it correctly. And so verification, it has, historically verification and research were the same thing because you were like writing the code and you were witnessing the code and you were the witness and the
Yep.
production of it. Now we've got this like principal agency thing, and we've got to bring a verifier in. So I wrote this referee two skill where my whole thing was, well, okay, let's think about coding errors within a large language model as measurement error. All right. Because the reason why is because an economist knows what that is. All
Hmm.
right. He
Okay.
or she knows what that is. They go measure. All right, fine. Measurement error. What's your point? And go, well, if they make measurement error mistakes, if they make syntax mistakes in Stata, what's the probability they're going to make the exact same version of that in R when it's like they're not coming from a lapse in knowledge. It's just
Yeah.
the stochastic nature of what the model does. Well, so many of these models that you work with, especially ordinarily squares, you should get numerically the identical number down to some trillion digits for some machine, precision. You should get the same number. Like you should get the same number if you ran it in Stata, Python, or R for ordinary least
Hmm.
squares because it is averaging. That's all it's doing. So it's just, it's taking averages, it's calculating residuals,
Yep.
etc. So it should be the same thing. So it's
Yep.
like I have referee to replicate so that I know that that is not probably a problem.
Hmm. I love it. I mean,
Where,
for a Poisson estimating it with maximum likelihood
yeah,
estimation,
that's what we're gonna have to find out. So that will
we
be a
might
little
get
different.
something a little bit different. It might find a slightly different.
That's actually going to
Let's
be
find
valuable,
out.
though. That's going to be valuable for us to kind of
Yeah.
know how not model specific, but software specific or seed specific that things are for this, like, search and stuff. So we're going to make the beautiful deck that goes with
We
this.
need to answer its questions though, Scott.
Oh,
So
what
it
did he
came back and
say?
it admired my control variables. And I want to run through this with you really quickly. So he says that he recommends adding the share of women with a college degree,
Yeah,
log median household income, and the percent urban. I
totally agree with you.
definitely agree with education and income. Percent urban is slow moving and interpolated between decennial censuses. I don't think there's any point in adding it. I guess
You
I don't
just think
really
it's going to get
object.
deleted when we do the fixed
I
effects?
don't think it'll get deleted because it is interpolated. It is varying, but it's not varying much. I think it's
But when
strongly.
you condition on the county fixed effects, isn't it demeaning? I don't quite know. I don't quite remember, to be honest. If I know with ordinarily squares, when you condition on the fixed effects, everything gets demeaned within the
Well,
panel
yeah, it's
unit.
gonna. The issue is, I have two endpoints,
Uh-huh.
and then the percent urban in between is interpolated. It's varying over time.
Oh, I see.
It will
Got
be
it.
strongly collinear with the fixed effects, but not perfectly collinear. But I don't think
Mhm.
it's adding anything really. So I would say don't include percent urban. Um, it also says it considered and rejected percent Hispanic because that's already in two, percent Republican because it's near constant. I agree. Medicaid expansion, that would be a statewide shock. It would be in the year of fixed effects.
Mhm.
Everything else it looked at statewide shock. The genies, I'm going to say let's not put them in right now because none of the measures I've got of Gini coefficients vary much over time, and I don't feel confident that they're useful. So I basically think we should tell it to go ahead and add one and two, education and income, and nothing else. But also, it flagged for us two things that we should consider adding in the future. One of them is family planning clinic indicators that we got from Annalisa Packham's earlier paper.
Okay.
And
What is that?
also,
What am I doing here with Packham? So I say, do put that in.
we don't, I don't think, I don't know that we have it ready.
Oh,
So
okay. So don't.
it's flagging two additional variables that are Texas specific, that are not in my national county level controls that we might want to think about for the future.
Okay. For now, we are tabling Packham 2016 and the
Yes,
Shale
Shale
County.
County indicator. I don't,
Okay.
yeah.
When we do yeah, okay, fine. So I don't want to add more to that. All right. So then we want to make the beautiful deck that goes with this.
Mhm.
Um,
Yep.
and remember, we are just looking at the tables for now, but feel free. Yeah, just tables for now. Is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. So,
Can I tell you, I don't even remember what years are in here, by the way, that
I'm
we have
telling you,
marriages for.
man, I'm gonna get punished for this AI agent stuff because I have fairly severe. I don't know if I told you this. You probably not, you're gonna be like, "Oh, Scott, I've known this literally the entire time," but I have like fairly severe attention deficit disorder, and primarily inattentive, and I just get distracted all the time. And so for me, coding was like a correction to that ADHD because I would get into the zone
Yes.
and then I would just kind of get into the zone. And when I got into the zone, I would like I would memorize the code. Like I didn't really think logically before I coded about where I was going to go. Once I was in
Mhm.
it, the logic of what I was going to do became very
Yeah.
clear, the narrative of it.
Yeah.
But what I've kind of noticed is that I'm not in the zone, anymore. If I'm doing this.
Yes.
And so I'm not memorizing anymore
Yeah.
the code structure. And so there's like little signs of it all the time, which is like I actually don't remember if we did this, and I don't remember where we did it. And I kind
Yeah.
of think that that's not a trivial loss of human capital. I don't mean like that's like not there's like two remember there's always like general human capital and firm specific capital. And I kind of feel like a project is firm specific capital because it's all not transportable. What you did in what order is unique to that do file or whatever. And I feel like I'm losing project specific human
Yes.
capital, and
Me too.
I don't know what to do about that. But it does not sound like a good thing to
No.
not quite know where you are because you're basically hoping. So what I'm doing is basically personifying Claude and then trusting him because because I think, well, he's Claude, he's a real person. He'll know where we are. And in reality, he's got his own problems, or he's not real. So I'm kind
Yeah.
of like, I'm a little,
No,
what do you think
this
about that?
loss that you're describing,
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. And I'll say I don't think I have ADHD. I think I'm I have the opposite problem, which is I become hyper focused and obsessed on a problem and
No,
I like,
that's what ADHD primarily inattentive has hyper focus.
is that right? Okay, well,
Yeah. It has
then
both of
maybe
them. When you get into
I
the
be
zone, you just like,
yeah, I'm like, and I that's exactly it. I don't do that with when I'm working with Claude, and there's things I'm absolutely losing. Like the fact that I can't remember exactly what years are going into this regression,
Yeah.
that's really weird for me to
I
not know that.
yeah,
I mean,
because
I could guess, right? But I just don't remember exactly what we're using. Like, does it remember? I know we want to cut it off before
28,
that 2018 change, and I
2018, yeah.
assume Claude remembers it, but like, I don't know what it just did.
Yeah, we're about to find out. So he's
We're
about to
about to
tell
find
us.
out. I mean,
I
it may
bet
not
he
even,
will. It's all depends on this context window, though. And
yeah,
I think one thing I think we probably need to do is be very aggressive after every one of our episodes to get him to summarize exactly what he did so
yeah,
that we are always going to be able just to re-enter the conversation by having him just read, his notes. And I,
yep,
I, I used to do that pretty religiously, and I've noticed like I'm slacking a little bit more.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, so that's the thing I actually thinking about you, Caitlin. Um, your attention to detail is meticulous. I've told you that before. You're just so sharp with being on top of like every single detail. And so I can imagine what we're talking about even being a little distressful
Oh,
for you.
yeah.
Is it?
Yeah, are you not distressed?
I am distressed, but the thing is, I have habitually like missed the obvious all the time. But that's what makes coding so precious
Yeah,
is it's an opportunity for me to hyper focus and to feel comfortable in my environment
yeah,
and to now have a new thing in my life that's just another one of these things where I'm trying to grasp it smoke a little bit is it worries me a little bit.
yeah, yeah. It worries me too. I just think I'm wondering if I'll see it presenting in seminars in the near future because typically if somebody asks me a question, no matter how in the weeds it is, and no matter how many co-authors I have,
You know the answer.
I know the answer. Like I have been
Yeah.
in that code, I've thought about it. And like
Yep.
this process we have with Claude right now, I mean, it's unusual on many levels, including the fact that I'm kind of writing a paper to an hour a week with you and then I
Yeah.
go off and do my other stuff.
Right.
We're not really working offline much, right? Like people are
No.
seeing us do this live.
No.
Um, but I just kind of wonder if I'm gonna know it as well. And if
Yeah.
I lose that, it's not just losing a piece of my identity, it's also potentially the thing that distresses me is missing something important. I'm just
I
really worried I'm gonna miss something.
Yeah. I think those are actually two different things.
Hmm.
One is a positive thing and one's a normative thing. And so the positive thing is, am I going to know less about my own project
Right.
because of some muscle memory thing that goes on? And then secondly, uh, should I care? Or like,
Right.
how will I care? Or like, what will my feelings about it be? And
Right.
I think those are different things. And I think I can say with a fair amount of confidence, unless I figure out some life hack around this, I am gonna know less because I
Yeah.
have always relied on muscle memory
Yeah.
coming
Can,
from being in the zone.
can I tell you, and we're about to look at the deck, but I'll just say really quickly, me too. But I wonder if for some senior colleagues it might be different because I kind of get the impression that I'm a weirdo in that I'm 20 plus years into this whole professoring gig and I'm still the person like
I was literally about to say
I
that.
write I write the code. I still
Yep.
write the code. And I think a
Yep.
lot of senior people they're already relying on human RAs
Exactly.
much more than I do, partly because I'm in a liberal arts college, so I don't have,
Yep.
PhD students.
Yep.
But I wonder if you're senior and you're relying on human RAs, the ability to go in and ask Claude
Yep.
questions when your human RAs aren't around is like kind of amazing. Like I could see it actually benefiting some
I
people,
know. I've thought
even
that
as
too.
we lament what we
Because,
might lose.
you think about like Raj Chetty or something, he's obviously got a tremendous amount of skill and human capital at managing a
Yes,
lab, a large group of people.
right.
Joe Price at Brigham Young, his like whole gig is to manage like 40 undergraduate TAs that or RAs that are like working in these complicated level systems. And he's doing really rigorous, intense empirical work.
Yeah.
I can imagine a person like that where this is almost seamless. Because why? Because they clearly have the ability to step back and coordinate.
Hmm.
And I
Right.
have either I don't have either I'm very uncomfortable or just can't do it. Like or like don't want
Yeah.
to do it. I don't exactly know what it is, but I definitely do not have the experience at it. And I've noticed like as more and more of the profession is using Claude Code, I'm already kind of like witnessing a little bit of this sorting. And
Hmm.
some people are seem to be very good at coordinating the swarms of agents.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
saw me the way that I prompt.
Oh
We
my
just
gosh,
have
your
some
prompt was
massive long
400 words.
conversation. I'm burning through these tokens. And I'm not just doing like setting up a big system, but somebody out there is going to be setting up a big system. So
Yep.
you're saying something kind of similar.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder too. I mean, I just think I think I have the capacity to coordinate a large number of agents, human and non. But I also just don't love to do like I actually like coding, you know?
Yeah.
Like I feel like that's a
Uh,
piece of it too, is I like it. Okay, Scott, I need to see the results have popped up. I'm gonna say Claude has disappointed me with his slide deck because it's too masculine
I
and
told him though,
it's navy blue and orange. Ew.
yeah, but the thing is, I told him, I said make a beautiful deck, but if I had told him to go all out, it would have been going for about an hour. I've like rewritten my beautiful
Okay.
deck skill.
It's fine. We'll look at this fine deck.
We need to make a deck style that we're reusing every time so
Yeah.
that this just goes reuse the deck
Yep.
style. All
Yep.
right, I'm gonna let you read it.
Well, I mean, Claude has made, and by the way, I'm making fun of you for your prompt, but Claude had no problem with your 400 word prompt, and
Yeah.
maybe it was more efficient than my usual approach, which is shorter, more prompts that are shorter. But anyways, Claude has produced a lovely slide for us that writes down the Poisson model
Mm,
and defines all of our variables. So we're predicting marriage license applications with distance to the nearest abortion facility. We have controls that vary at the county year level. We have county fixed effects and year fixed effects. And we have an exposure variable that is the population of women of reproductive age, which two things about that. The first thing about it is that folks who aren't familiar with Poissons can think of this as analogous to a model where we're estimating the log marriage rate as the outcome using OLS.
mm,
And secondly, it's not clear to me that the population of women aged 15 to 44 is the right denominator for
mhm.
that because that's the population of women of reproductive age, but not the population of marriageable age. But I doubt it matters much. So let's just flag
For
that
now that
and
we
continue.
flag it. Okay. All right.
In fact, in a Poisson model, I'll mention with county fixed effects and populations that aren't varying much over time,
Mhm.
I find that whether or not you include the exposure doesn't usually matter much.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm not worried about this, but I am going to flag the, like kind of is that the right
Right.
denominator for our rate? But so Claude has shown us that. Let's go to the next slide.
Let me just real quick because I will not remember this. So,
Okay.
FYI, the
So Scott's back in Claude telling it.
exposure.
Yeah, to remember that we might want to reconsider whether the population of women of childbearing age is the denominator that we want for marriage rates. It's not clearly the right one. And but fine for now, probably not a big deal. So we're kind of going to flag that along with these two additional control variables we might want to add.
Yeah, and by the way, he's running it in Stata and he's running it in Python.
Yeah.
And he's
So
probably
while we're
gonna,
look,
this is like gonna update in a minute, I think.
yeah. Okay, so let's
So
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
all right. So he's got the regression and
Yep.
there's our treatment variable.
Yep. Distance. So let's go to the next. So he's telling us, oh, he's going to remind us of the years. Thank God.
Mhm.
So
And he stopped
Claude,
it.
Yeah, Claude did the right thing, maybe. So Claude says that we have 2,286 county by year observations in our panel. That
Mhm.
is 254 counties observed from 2009 to 2017. He's picking 2009 because that's the first year we have distance available. Our treatment occurs in 2013, and he's ending in 2017 because we observed previously that there's some wacky like trends in the marriage data after 2017.
We actually have an
So,
upcoming episode that we're going to dig into this a little bit more based on what,
yes.
right? I'm
Yeah, we're
excited
going to
about
dig into
that.
that a little bit more. So, okay, so he's just reminding us about our data. So that all makes sense. Oh my gosh, this is such a slow run up to it. I want to see some coefficients. But next,
There's the
like,
covariates.
come on, Claude. Now we've got a table that shows us what covariates are in each model, showing us that model one has no additional controls, model two adds demographic controls, and model three adds additional economic and education controls.
Oh, all right, here we go. All right, this
All
is
right.
he's justifying it. We can skip this, right? Because
Yeah.
we need covariates that predict trends, not levels. If we're doing the Heckman kind of style reasoning or whatever under parallel trends, you basically are finding you're satisfying conditional parallel trends. Okay, he that's why he picked this stuff.
Go to the table, Scott. Yay.
He loves to
Whoa.
put standard errors beside stuff.
Oh, why do you? Okay. So
Yeah,
for
he
folks
doesn't put it
not
in. He doesn't put.
watching, Claude has made the very unusual choice for an economist. Claude might not be an economist, to give us our regression coefficients with our significant stars. And then beside them, instead of under them, we have standard errors in brackets. So economists are used to seeing them under the coefficients.
Yeah, he always does it. He always
But
does it. And it's so
Scott,
weird
let's
too because I can't imagine what he is training on where he puts brackets around. Anyway, he does it. So what do we got here?
Well, let me walk you through, and I'm going to use linear approximations for a hot sec. We can calculate exact percent changes soon. But
Mhm.
let me walk folks through what we see. So in our first model with no controls, we see that a 100-mile increase in distance to the nearest clinic is associated with a 3% decline in marriages, and that is statistically significant at less than a 1% level. The standard error is 0.01, about a third the size of the coefficient.
Mhm.
But then we see that when we add our demographic controls, that is substantially attenuated.
Mhm.
That instead of a 3% decline in marriage, we see a 0.6% decline as a point estimate. It is not statistically significant. The standard error is 0.009, so it's larger than the coefficient.
Mhm.
And we see that it's attenuated even further when we add additional controls to a not significant or precise 0.3% decline. So, this initial result, what we're seeing is that it is sensitive to the inclusion of controls. I
Yep.
am also immediately seeing at least two things I think we need to change about the model. But Scott, I'm going to pause and let me tell you what you think. Let
Okay.
you tell me. Sorry, I won't tell you what you think.
Yeah. No, I mean, I see the same things, which obviously that the inclusion of about eight, nine covariates here, we don't know which one. We don't really know a lot about these covariates statistically. You do, but like,
Yeah,
we don't know. We didn't. What we do know is that, okay, we do know that when we added them in, the sample size stayed exactly the same. So
yeah.
it's not like we're adding in a bunch of missing values, which can cause your sample to change and things like that. But it doesn't look like this was the second example that you gave, which was the inclusion of the covariates is just going to reduce the residual variance.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
This is not an improvement in precision. The coefficient is dropping. So that
Yeah.
would suggest to, I think, my historical training in econometrics, that would suggest that some of these covariates must be changing over time
Hmm.
because that's what the clinic variable is. It's changing over time. When we put in county fixed effects, yeah, I got to keep doing this. When we put in the county fixed effects, we're exploiting the within county variation in distance.
Yep.
If it's ordinarily square style reasoning, they're all getting demeaned. So I would think then that the this would suggest something is changing over time of these, and I wouldn't have thought any of these would change.
Well, I think we can be a little more specific, and I think there's a way to maybe get at this. So, what I see in the second column
Yeah.
is not surprising to me. What I see in the second column is that counties with younger
Mm,
populations, more people in their 20s, have higher marriage rates. And that's a
mm,
decade when a lot of folks get married, right? So, like, that kind of makes sense to me. And I also see that when we control for the age profile of the population, the effective distance to the clinic is attenuated. So
mm,
here's a hypothesis. I think the counties that had the biggest shocks to distance may be counties that have aging populations, and that's
mm.
part of the reason their marriage rates are going down. It's because of their aging population.
This is the thing. It goes
Yep.
back to something you said before, which is, if the treatment is as good as random,
Right.
none of this stuff should matter. But the
Right.
thing is, it's not random
Right.
because the closures are there's like it's kind of big distance changes is coming from is it coming from a marginally more isolated community? Because it can't come from Dallas because they
Right.
don't even if they lose one, they have more.
Right. Well, keep in mind, we these clinic closures are generated by this policy, and I do think it's plausibly random whether a particular provider at a particular clinic had admitting privileges.
Totally.
But the big cities have more clinics.
Yes,
So even though
exactly.
they have clinic closures, they've got some that remain open because they're just more likely by chance to have a provider who has admitting privileges.
See,
And
that's a slight,
just
yeah.
demographically, big cities have more immigration, younger populations. So I think that it doesn't have to be the case that the clinic closures are themselves generated by the population demographic. That does like I don't think that's true in our particular context.
Mhm,
But just the fact that they're more likely to shock distance in rural areas and rural
mhm.
areas have different demographic changes, like that'll violate our assumption. But can I suggest something, Scott? Like if that's the issue, we could just estimate the effect on marriages. We know the ages of the people getting married. So we should just estimate the effect on marriages to people in their like 20s, say, right? Like
Oh, yeah, because we
condition,
have their ages. We have
we
the
have their
age.
ages.
We
So
have the
like if
age. Yeah, we could do that.
yeah. And so I think
Um,
that that is one approach we can take here, and we should flag it for next time because we're gonna run too long. But I would say for next time, we should estimate this by age. And we also really need to talk about nonlinearities and distance because we're entering distance just in hundreds of miles in this specification. And what we've seen always in the literature is that the effective distance to abortion facilities on births is quite nonlinear,
mhm,
that the initial increases have much bigger effects. Like going from 0 to 100 miles has a much bigger effect than going from 100 to 200.
mhm.
And we need to adapt our model to allow for that too before we reach any big conclusions.
Real quick, look, so our state of Python,
Whoa,
everything's identical. So
that's
we
so interesting.
we do know that we might be making a mistake, but it doesn't appear to be a syntax mistake, probably.
Hmm. Yep.
And
I love your
interestingly,
audit.
this referee too writes like a thorough review, and so look what he also did. He just referee two flagged what you just said, which is we've
Yeah.
been controlling for distance linearly instead of the bends.
Bins or a
Um,
quadratic, which, yeah, either
yeah.
way. Yep.
Um, uh, okay. So we're gonna do that. All right. And
Cool.
okay.
So we kind of have this next list, but I mean, I feel like we didn't pause enough to celebrate estimating a model. I won't say running a regression since I'm still trying to decide if maximum likelihood estimation can be described as running a regression.
Yeah.
But with a model that's nonlinear in the parameters.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting that our Poisson model picks up the relative decline in marriage.
Hmm.
That's interesting. And that it is super sensitive to adding covariates, right?
Yeah.
And so before, I think that we thought that theoretically it wasn't clear which way to predict any effect might run. But right now, I'm not sure we know there's any effect. And so we're
Yeah.
really going to have to kind of dig into this. I think the demographic profile of the population is looking really important here. And so that's what we're going to have to dig into.
Yeah, so I think I keep thinking with county fixed effects that of this demeaning of the right hand side variables and the because I think in terms of the regret of the least squares representation of it, and I believe that's what Poisson's probably doing too. So when that is done, if the covariates included are causing the coefficient of interest to decline, that would seem to say, and those were just demographics, that seems to suggest that some counties are experiencing demographic shifts
Right.
that's correlated with
Right.
distance and
Right.
correlated with marriage. And actually, I mean, we have a long panel. '09 to 2017 is almost 10 years of data. So, and that's the Great Recession up to
Yeah.
COVID. That's a decade of, that's a little bit of a demographic shift. Plus, we're in a demographic transition right now
Right.
starting with the Great Recession, birth rates have been plummeting. I don't know what's going on with marriage rates. I do know that birth rates have been falling nationally. I don't know what's going on in Texas per se, but it's making me think that we may be needing to go after these demographic trends
Hmm.
really carefully.
Yes, I totally agree. Can I add to your list? We also need to worry. There's an oil boom and bust in Texas in this early period.
Isn't there
We
really?
got, man, like you run a regression, you don't know the answer still, right? Like we need to go after all this stuff
I
next
know, I
time.
know. I'm glad we're doing Pinky Promise pre-registering on a podcast. So because
Yeah.
we're not really fishing. We're really confused. We ran our regression and it made us think stuff. And I always kind of feel like I don't know how people pre-register all this stuff that never even occurred to me till I saw it. But
Yeah.
I know that's really an important part of modern science is get all your eggs in a basket before you start doing stuff.
Scott, I have a favor to ask.
Yeah.
Before we sign off,
Okay.
I don't want to leave without knowing if regression analysis has to refer to OLS or if it can refer to a other model. Can we ask Claude?
Yeah.
We can't, we can't, maybe everybody in the audience already knows the answer to this, but I need to know so that I don't embarrass myself in the future.
All right. So I say, hey, settle something for us. We want to call Poisson a regression, but
Caitlin is worried that a regression has to be OLS
Caitlin is worried that regression legally is only allowed to
legally.
describe ordinary least squares
Federal law.
by, yeah, threat of by threat of government. So,
Does
uh,
Claude have a sense of humor?
what do you think? Yeah, he does. He does. He's going to say so. He's
Do
going
you
to
know
tell
what
me.
Claude told me
He's going to
this
say that's
weekend?
so funny.
Oh,
Yep. You're
regression is
safe
not
from the
legally reserved
regression
for
police.
OLS.
Ah, look what he did.
He's telling us about Galton.
And I was right. Mediocrity. All right, here we go.
Oh my gosh.
Caitlin is safe from the regression police. Regression is not legally reserved for OLS. Here's the actual story. The term regression comes from Galton's 1886 paper, Regression Towards Mediocrity in Hereditary Stature, where he observed that tall parents' children tended to be less tall, regressing toward the population mean. The name describes the phenomenon he was studying, not an estimator. OLS was the tool he used, which is, I asked and you
Yep.
said you thought it was, via
Yep.
Pearson's formalization. So regression and OLS got fused.
Which is
Early,
weird, by the way, right? That we use this term regression because of what Galton was studying with OLS. But in any event, they got fused.
yeah, and the meaning of what he meant literally has nothing to do with ordinary least squares or even the proper or even the like the properties of OLS that there must be some kind of regression to the mean doesn't mean the same thing.
But this is
Uh,
interesting because he says so by modern usage, regression just means estimating the conditional expectation or conditional anything of y given x. The estimator can be anything.
mm,
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy I know now.
call it Poisson's been called regression since the 70s.
Okay.
Quantile, ridge, lasso. Yeah, of course. This is what I meant. These non-parametric ones, kernel regression. Because in our regression discontinuity design, these are the common terms. Yeah, spline regression. Wooldridge explicitly says Poisson. Cameron and Trivedi. Yeah, regression analysis of count data, of course. Uh,
Claude says you can say it on the podcast without the FBI showing up.
where is he saying that? The
Doubt.
regression police are a myth. Galton gave us the word. We use it generously.
Okay, Scott, let's go re-record where I know this from the beginning.
Very beginning. We'll have AI
Yeah.
re-record the whole thing for you.
Yeah. Just
I,
pretend like I
I
knew
always
that you
knew.
could use it for
No, you
anything.
said we could be brave. We could be brave about our not knowing stuff.
Okay.
I feel more confident because you said that first. Now I'm going to definitely admit some of the things out loud. All right. So good to see you. We
Good to
ran the
run a regression
regressions.
today. A
Ran the
Poisson
regression.
regression.
We ran a Poisson regression and we learned that we ran a Poisson regression.
All right.
All right. Have a good week.
Bye, Scott. You too.